Good morning. Here's a look at our top stories of this half hour. Two women in their 70s have been killed in a crash west of Kemptville. They've been identified as 76-year-old Marion McFadden of Smiths Falls and 78-year-old Jacqueline Jeffries of Burritts Rapids. Two men, also in their 70s, were sitting in the front seat and were injured seriously. Police say their Buick was hit head-on by a Hyundai on County Road 43 east of Meadow Glen Circle intersection just after 5 p.m. The 18 and 20-year-old women in the Hyundai, both of Kemptville, were also seriously hurt. Today is the 10-year anniversary of the biggest blackout in North American history, a power outage that began in Ohio, spread to 8 U.S. states and most of Ontario, including Ottawa.
First of all, at this time, I will not be declaring a state of emergency. We're going to monitor the situation on an ongoing basis.
Then Ottawa Mayor Bob Chiarelli made the decision not to declare a state of emergency, saying there was no imminent threat to public safety. The power outage knocked out traffic lights, canceled flights at the Ottawa airport, and left restaurants with thousands of dollars of spoiled food. Joining us now live from Queen's Park is former Ottawa Mayor and current Energy Minister Bob Chiarelli. Mr. Chiarelli, thanks so much for joining us today. Tell us what you were doing at the time of the blackout and how the city handled that situation.
Well, I was at a meeting in Canada that afternoon, and certainly the lights went out where I was located. So I immediately called the city manager's office to find out what was happening, and it was at that time that I learned that it was a very widespread outage. So I asked the city manager to immediately convene a meeting of the emergency measures team at City Hall. And I left Canada and joined them at the meeting to start assessing the situation.
Did it seem at all chaotic to you, or was there a sense of calm even though the lights were out and nobody knew what was going on yet?
Well, there certainly was a sense of calm. It certainly was very different than the disaster we had in the ice storm, which I had to deal with when I was regional chair. So it was very professional, very deliberate in terms of how we dealt with the issue. Part of the immediate solution was to open up lines of communication amongst all the different parts of the province of Ontario to find out what was happening. And of course, at that time, as mayor, I was the Ottawa's director on Hydro Ottawa, and so they were right in the thick of things themselves. So I was acting as mayor, but I was also spokesperson for Hydro Ottawa in the issue.
You had a lot of hats to wear that day. How have things changed today, 10 years later, in terms of how we manage electricity in the province? Could this be avoided, or could this ever happen again, you think?
Well, you know, immediately after this particular blackout, there was an action plan or an action team that was set up with the U.S. Secretary of Energy, the Canadian Minister of Energy, to do an assessment. And they obviously relied on their electricity operators around North America. They basically, first of all, identified Ohio as the location where it started.
Right.
And secondly, the electricity systems across North America work cooperatively, but there were no enforceable rules at that time, and they were not abided by. So the biggest outcome in North America was that they have official, legally binding rules. They're enforceable with significant sanctions, so that all of the electricity system operators in North America have to work together and support each other in a very technical and realistic way.
All right, Ontario's Energy Minister and former Ottawa Mayor Bob Chiarelli, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we've been asking you, our viewers, during what you were doing during the blackout. We've been getting an overwhelming amount of response to this question. Jane Ogden says she was doing laundry at the laundromat and was about to throw her wet clothing into the dryer. She had to carry 4 loads home on foot to hang on her clothesline. Darla Dudek Rosen was working at a spa and was in the middle of doing a manicure. She finished with the emergency lights on, and one of the hairdressers went outside to finish a haircut. And Carla Cody, well, she went into labor, giving birth to her son Davin on the 15th. She says it was a long process during the blackout. 6 researchers have emerged from a small dome on a barren Hawaii lava field after simulating what it would be like to live on Mars. They spent the past 4 months living in the dome at an elevation of 8,000 feet. The NASA-funded mission was attempted to figure out what foods astronauts might eat on Mars and during deep space missions. The group had to cook meals from a list of dehydrated and non-perishable ingredients, including Spam. It will take several months to process all the data they've gathered.